Welcome to this edition of webinar that is being organized by Delhi Metropolitan Education. We as an institution understand our responsibility to the society, and that is how since the time this lockdown happened, we started to find ways and means how to continue our education. So we initially continued the online classes to complete the syllabus, the pending syllabus of the students. And thereafter, we thought that this is the time and when the technology is there to our help to do something for the constant enrichment of knowledge of the people, and particularly the youth, the student segment. And since in Delhi Metropolitan Education, we offer 4 different programs, which include the media studies and which also includes the legal studies, wherein we have two different BA LLB and BBL LLB 5-year integrated programs. So obviously, we are always in search of the topics and the scholars and the experts, wherein we cater to all these students. But once we started holding this webinar, these kind of webinars, then we realized that there is a pan-India audience, and people during this time are hungry for knowledge. So any webinar, incidentally, that we organize, then there is a pan-India presence. Yesterday in our webinar, there were participants from 15 states, and the number crossed 300. But astonishingly, today 550 people have got themselves registered, though as per the Zoom guidelines, we cannot accommodate more than 500 people. Another thing that we try to do in these webinars, since we thought that there are a lot of people who cannot join at the time when you are organizing something because of their own engagements and time constraints. So that is how we decided to have the live streaming on YouTube. So this program is going on YouTube live, and this can be seen on DME TV, which is a YouTube-based channel of Delhi Metropolitan Education. So with this introductory note, I thought that let us tell everybody, those who are joining for the first time, though there are some regular participants, and these are these come from the educators and researchers and PhD scholars all over. So they are almost joining every day in the webinar. But what is interesting today, since we have a very eminent guest with us, so the law students and the law faculty have joined in large numbers, not only from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, then prominently the MIT University, Noida, and then from other law colleges and the universities, the students who are pursuing their LLB degrees in different universities and colleges, they have also joined. And the topic that we have decided for today's presentation, today's webinar, that is constitutional values. So we are really grateful to Justice Kurian Joseph, who needs no introduction. Everybody knows about him. So he kindly agreed to join in this webinar, and he was very categorical on this, that the students and the people need to know about the constitutional values, and that is how we choose on this topic. So though initially he will be speaking on this topic, but then he will always prefer to have questions from the participants. So because that's the real exercise, that the real benefit of any webinar that we can ensure. So at the outset, I welcome Justice Kurian Joseph to this webinar, though as I said already, he needs no introduction, but to tell every participant, he has been a judge in the Supreme Court for 5 years. He retired in November 2018, and since that time he is very, very active in the academic field, wherein he is in the process of giving as much knowledge as possible to give to the common people. And before joining in the Supreme Court, for 10 years he was a judge in Kerala High Court. He was the Chief Justice also for 3 years, and 5 years, as I said, he was in the Supreme Court. And he is known for many landmark judgments and for, if we can use the term, for his judicial activism, because he is always vocal on the issue which are affecting the society. And if we can remember his latest statement that he gave when the last Chief Judge India, he was nominated to Rajya Sabha. And also we always remember the important judgment that he gave with regard to the judicial appointment commission. So with this introduction, I will request, initially I will again welcome Justice Kurian Joseph. Welcome, sir, to this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ambarish.
Thank you. So I will not speak on the topic because we have the most credible person to speak on this issue, but then to give some hint to the media students, particularly law students, understand the importance of the Indian Constitution. But wherever the media studies happen in the country, we have one or two very important papers in the first and the second semester, wherein the students are told the basics of the Indian Constitution. And the first and the foremost thing which is told to the student is about the fundamental rights. So when we say the constitutional values, so obviously the reference is straight to the preamble of the Constitution, which encompasses the two most important things, which we call the equality and the liberty, and then the fundamental rights which are there in the Constitution, which empowers each and every citizen of the country. So that is important for not only for the students to know, but for the common people, for the common citizens. They also need to know about these constitutional values. So I will request Justice Kurian Joseph to please take over and enlighten us all on this pertinent topic, constitutional values. Sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ambarish. A warm good morning to Dr. Ambarish and all the dear professors, students, and civil society activists, and my good friends participating in this webinar. I congratulate West Delhi Metropolitan Education Society in having thought of a thoughtful subject in this webinar. Not that other topics are not thoughtful, but I said this something is very what you call currently important, and that is what is crucial to stay back in the minds of every student who studies law. Why do you study law? I always ask this question. If this is not because you didn't get admission in any other course. You're chosen to become a lawman, keeping in mind that this gives you a vista of knowledge of your citizenship, your citizenry duties of your nation, how your country is constituted, and what is your place and space in this country. All these are very important. So according to me, for any student before he becomes a law graduate, he must know what his constitutional duties are, constitutional space is, and constitutional rights are. Dr. Ambarish said, they start with teaching them constitutional rights, rather the fundamental rights. According to me, you should start by constitutional, what you call fundamental duties. The first fundamental duty starts like this: to abide by the Constitution, respect its institution and its ideals, the national and the national flag. So to abide by the Constitution. So what's the Constitution? Constitution is as simple as it is, how we are constituted into a nation. That is simply the Constitution. Who constituted? We constituted. I constituted. So I am a part of this Constitution. If I am a part of this Constitution, I have something to take from the Constitution. I have something to give to the constitutional institutions. Yeah, I would request the host to mute all others, please. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if I constituted my nation, then I would repeat, I have something to take from the Constitution, and I have something to give to the nation, which has come out of this Constitution. So one is my duty, the other is my right. Third is, how am I governed under this Constitution? That's the governance part. So with this bare ideas in my mind, this is actually, I thought, we must know what we are, how proud we should be about our country. I always tell that India is my country. All Indians are my brothers and sisters. Where does this idea come from? Mera Bharat Mahan hai. Where does this idea come from? How does it become Mahan? Bharat Mera hai. How does it come, this idea? How does it become my country? These are some important questions we must ask. And then only we must be in a position to lead a constitutional way of life. That's, in other words, in law classes, we call rule of law. Rule of law is nothing but taking constitution as a way of life. Indian constitution is not a textbook of principles. It's actually a guidance for our a civic life, responsible civic life. How does it become a responsible civic life? We must know what is India. India now, politically, it constitutes of 29 minus 1, 28 states, 7 union territories, almost 134 million people, of which 120 million people use mobile phones. This is something very important. Then only we will know what is this social communication, how people are connected. Connectivity is very important in a democratic country. And we have 22 scheduled languages, 844 non-scheduled dialects. We have world-known religions in this country. We have given birth to religions and we have welcomed all religions also. And we have the literacy rate of almost 70%. So all this simple background I give, because we should know what our country is. Now let me come to the constitutional values. So what the Constitution is, we have constituted ourselves into a country, solemnly resolved to constitute India into what? These are the, when we speak about values, as Professor Ambarish rightly said, necessarily refer to the preamble. Preamble is the what you call opening page, and it is the spectacle through which you read the Constitution. So if you are short-sighted, or if you can't read it, you need a specs to read something. Therefore, when you read a constitution, when you analyze a constitution, you need a specs where you have this preamble with you. So take this specs of preamble with you. Now, it starts with the word we. So it's a constitution of the people. It's a constitution for the people. These two things. Let's by is for the government. So of the people and by the people. We have constituted India into what? India has been constituted as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. This is like the 5 pillars. If you can conceive of a structure being built on 5 pillars, these are the 5 pillars. A structure has come on these 5 pillars. Please remember, I'm not forgetting also, because I can avoid a couple of questions. The secular and socialist pillars were not there, projectedly written when the Constitution was originally drafted and presented in 1949, came into in 1950. Well, but it is said that these pillars were not there. But these pillars were not felt to be set. So if I am a man, why should I always say I am a man? I don't have to write I am a man on my forehead. So secular and socialist were principles are already there. Then why it was written? Well, in 1975, after the Sorensen Committee report, it was felt that after having experimented our constitution 25 years, a time has come that it is better to write what is already there for the sake of generations and for sending a message to the world that what the country is. This country is secular and secular and socialist is known to us, but it should be known to the world also. So it was felt necessary to make a constitution, introduce a constitutional amendment, and it was known to the people that these are the 5 pillars. Otherwise, the original 3 pillars were, sovereign democratic republic. But these 2 pillars were also there. It is on 5 pillars this was actually built. Of which I don't think you need any explanation on sovereign. I don't think you need an explanation on socialist. I don't think you need an explanation on republic. I don't think that you need any explanation on socialist also. So because sovereign is, of course, is our sovereignty. Socialist is ours is not a capitalist country. Republic is, even any one of you, any Indian can become the top ruler, president of India, provided he is duly qualified to be elected as a member of the parliament. That's the only qualification required. That is the beauty of Indian Republic. So let me leave those 3 aspects and concentrate on 2 important constitutional values which need to be actually dealt with, not only at this stage, but forever. Because a true Indian must know what my constitution is, starting with secular and democratic. So what is democracy? Democracy is, of course, as simple as it is, and it is for the people, of the people, by the people. So it is the people that is more important in democracy. How does the people become important? People become important when the voice of the people is heard in the country. Voice of the people. So democracy means any person in the country has a right to raise his voice. Please distinguish between voice and noise. Noise is something which is antithetic to voice, because in noise we don't hear anything, whereas in voice we hear and discern many things. So it's a noise that is suppressed, or that is to be suppressed to keep law and order in society, whereas voice is the healthy trend that is to be supported, that is to be encouraged for a healthy democracy. So if a country wants to be really democratic country, then every citizen of this country should have the right to raise his voice. Sorry, right to raise his voice. So no voice can be suppressed. That's what's called majoritarianism and counter-majoritarianism. Majoritarianism is a political concept. Counter-majoritarianism is a judicial concept. Please understand that, because judiciary does not depend on how many people support you. No confidence motion can be introduced against a chief justice or a judge in the court. You have, of course, you can be removed by an impeachment motion. There's no question of no confidence. Whereas if the people lack support in a politically elected government, you can move a no confidence motion and you can be removed from the power. That is not the way to remove a judiciary. So, because this is not an elected body is the democratic process whereby the people elect you to power. Whereas judiciary is an appointed body where the judiciary, the role of judiciary in the Indian Constitution is entirely different. And that role precisely is, in one sentence, what the Constitution is. It is for the court to say. What the Constitution is. What the Constitution should be is for the elected people to devise their policies and take it forward. You can make it a socialist country, you can make it economically powerful country, you can make it what they call on the defense side, very strong country, you can have a nuclear power, you can have all those things in our policy matters where it is for the elected people to decide. But whether that policy is in accordance with the Constitution of India is actually, it is for the court to say. That is why India may be the only country in the world where we had more than 100 amendments in the constitution, some of which have been struck down by the court. See, look at that situation. With the brutal majority, since it was about NJSC, National Judicial Appointments Commission, that was a constitutional amendment unanimously passed in the parliament. But it was struck down by the court, Supreme Court, and I was one of the members in the bench, constitutional bench also, because we found, rather the Supreme Court found, that this constitutional amendments affects the basic structure of the constitution. This constitution has conceived of an amendment procedure, and that is under Article 368. But after Kesavananda Bharati, it has been held now that you can amend anything, but not the basic structure. So what is that basic structure? If I told the 5 pillars, these 5 pillars is one of the basic structures. And in that basic structure, independence of judiciary, then comes the small structures. So the 5 here, and from the 5, you may have multiple small pillars, like this going up. So all these together will now become another dome. So the superstructure, the country rests on these pillars. So on those pillars, one pillar, basic structure means that means if that basic structure is pulled, the superstructure will tilt and ultimately it will fall. So for the integrity of the country, all these pillars are necessary. So all the basic structures are necessary. That way, independent judiciary was held to be one of the basic structures. Rule of law is on the basic structure, and these preamble principles are part of our basic structure. So that is democracy. Now let me come to secularism. Secularism, there is the beauty. There is a unique beauty of the unique beauty of Indian secularism is that that this country does not belong to any particular religion. Number one, this country is not opposed to any religion. Number two, this country recognizes the freedom of people to believe in a religion or not to believe in a religion. Number three, this country respects all religion. Number four, this country recognizes the valuable contribution religion can give in molding the character of its citizen. Number five. These are some of the aspects. So therefore, this country, that's why, when we come to the values down the constitution, the preamble itself, what they call justice, economic, social, and political, liberty of thought, expression, faith, belief, and worship. There are 5 small pillars coming up. Liberty of thought, expression, faith, belief, worship. 5 liberties are available. Justice, social, economic, and political. Equality of status and opportunity, and thus promoting the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the country. These are actually the structures or small structures on which it is actually built up also. Coming to the secularism. So it is this secularism that is actually guaranteed under Article 25 of the Constitution. People generally say this is freedom of religion. Article 25 does not say it is freedom of religion. Its title is freedom of conscience. So what does conscience mean? Conscience is, in the moral sense or in the legal sense, is that frame of mind where you have that freedom to choose what you are convinced, provided it is constitutionally permissible. That is actually the realm of the conscience. So you have a freedom today to believe in one philosophy, tomorrow in another philosophy, today in one political party, tomorrow in another political party, provided that the shifting is in accordance with the method provided. That's why, abide by the constitution and the laws. So your exercise of the freedom of conscience should be in accordance with law. What is that accordance with law? That is subject to only to 4 aspects. One, that the freedom of the religious practices or religion to survive in this country can be regulated only if it is opposed to public order, health, morality, and that it shall not violate any part under Article any provision under Article and Part 3 of the Constitution of India. That means it shall not violate the other fundamental rights. So, subject to public order, health, and morality, any citizen in this country can believe in any religion, can choose not to believe in any religion, and if he believes in a religion, he can profess, practice, and propagate his religion. This freedom is nowhere available in the world. Any religion he chooses, or any religion of which he does not have a religion, that also. So you can be an atheist also. You can propagate this atheism. So you can profess it, you can practice it, you can profess, practice, and propagate. Practice it also. So first you can profess, then you can practice, then you can propagate it. So this is the freedom, and that is this profession, practice, and propagation is only subject to three aspects. One, it shall not be, it shall be subject to public order, health, and morality. Another fourth aspect is that it shall not violate any part of the Part 3 of the Constitution. That is in respect, that's what we call reasonable restriction. Always we say that it shall not impinge any provisions in the fundamental right part of the Constitution of India. So this is the beauty of secular. That is how India, despite being a majority Hindu believers, country of Hindu believers, it welcomed Islam, it welcomed Christianity, it welcomed Parsis, it gave birth to Buddhism, it gave birth to Jainism, it gave birth to Sikhism. See, this all, that's the beauty of this country. So we have a country where we have any people or any citizen can believe in a religion, practice in religion, propagate in religion, subject to all those three restrictions also. So this country does not belong to one religion. This country is not opposed to any religion. This country respects and recognizes the role that religion can play in molding the character of a religion. This country gives freedom of conscience to any citizen to choose any religion that he believes is true. So today I can be a Christian, tomorrow I can be a Hindu, day after tomorrow I can be Islam, and then a Parsi, a Buddhist, a Chinese. It's my freedom of conscience, provided it shall not be under the duress, it shall not be under any what you call any threat or whether your domain exercise of your freedom is affected by an external factors. If you make a conscious choice of your religion, nobody can stop you in this country. That is secularism. Now coming to the fraternity part. So equality of status and opportunity, that everybody is equal before law, and all are equal. All are equal before law. So my dear students of law and my dear professors in law, I just want to tell your country, now after having learned the law or after having practiced law, we must be in a, this is why I wanted to tell you a concept. We must be in a position to see a citizen as a citizen, irrespective of his religion, language, culture, region, sex, what do you call tribe or place of birth, color, position, status, health, wealth. All these are irrelevant as far as an Indian is concerned. All are Indians, irrespective of being a Christian or a Hindu or an Islam or a Parsi or a Buddhist or Jainist. Irrespective of you speak whether Hindi or English or Malayalam or Sikh, Punjabi or Odia or whatever, any of those 22 plus 840 languages, any food you eat, any dress you wear, any position you hold, any sex you belong to, even if you're a transgender, you have a right to have your dignity protected under this Constitution of India. That's what's called fraternity. Now, because after having said about justice, equality, liberty, and thus to promote the fraternity, assuring this dignity of the individual. What is this dignity of individual? You always say what is dignity of individual. So a lot of questions have been asked about the constitutional morality. Constitutional morality is very simple. It is equality, liberty, dignity, and fraternity, we can say that, if you want to add fraternity. But fraternity is not necessary, because in these three, fraternity is also included. That's equality, liberty, and dignity. So your dignity as a citizen of the country is of paramount importance in this country. That is why, a citizen can walk directly to the Supreme Court under Article 32 of the Constitution of India. Nowhere in the world this right is available to anybody, provided in case, or rather provided in case your fundamental rights are violated. That's the beauty of this Constitution. So let me just wind up quickly, because we can have a little more interactive session. So the beauty of this country, after this dignity of this individual, comes the question of unity and dignity of India also. So that's the beauty of this Constitution. So constitutional values are this, it's a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And its democracy and its secularism is to be understood in liberal terms. And that, it has all these pillars are of justice, which is social, economic, and political. Whether the social, economic, and political justice has been ensured by your courts during this pandemic is a painful question. Every one of us looking at the pictures we have been seeing, has been terribly shook my conscience. Having been in that institution for 18 years and 6 months, I was terribly upset. In the Supreme Court also, I was there in the Supreme Court for 5 years and 9 months. I found, our institution could not rise up to the expected level where, the people would have expected. Because what is the duty of a court? Duty of a court is to remind the executive that this country is of the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, and today is a migrant worker. Or if I say the least, the last, and the lost. So because this institution only can see them. It does not mind whether you get a vote. Judiciary does not need a vote. Judiciary does not need a public support, but it has to see whether things go right in accordance with the Constitution. So constitutionalism to be ensured by the judiciary. That is where people always look up to the Constitution, particularly the voiceless people. Voiceless people. They have no lawyer to sign a wakalat for. They have no place to go. So that has been a painful scene we have been seeing. Anyhow, that is actually the constitutional value. So it is, we should be aware of these values when we say we are Indians. We must be in a position to think about all these petty politics. We must get rid of from our mind casteism, communalism, and corruption. Only three some I'm asking you. As a law student or as a lawyer, or as a lawman, get rid of, we should be in a position to think, because corruption affects the dignity of a person. That, so too casteism, communalism. So think about casteism and communalism and corruption, and be a true Indian and be a proud Indian. And all the best. God bless you all. We'll have a little interactive session.
Thank you, Justice Joseph. One question I would like to ask, that you said that there's a freedom of conscience and freedom of religion in our constitution, and nobody can take that freedom away. But then there are certain states in our country, certain assemblies, who have passed the Religious Conversion Act, which puts a lot of restrictions. Suppose if somebody wants to change from one religion to another, then that is being regulated by law. So is it correct as per the Constitution?
Yeah, those regulations have been introduced so that, no person shall, by way of duress or by way of any what they call allurement, because freedom of the conscience should actually come from one's conviction. This conviction, because the Indian Contract Act, the contract becomes void if it is affected by, the agreement becomes affected by, all those principles are there. We call it coercion, undue influence, so many things, those vitiating factors. So only to eradicate, only to ensure this freedom of conscience, some of these safeguards have been introduced in some of the states where the illiteracy of the people, the poverty of the people, or maybe the inaccessibility of the people to knowledge was perceived to be a factor where they were not in a position to take an independent, conscious decision on their freedom of conscience. That was the reason why in such states this was introduced.
My colleague in DME
Well,
media
in those states also, the regulation itself provides, you can get a certificate, you can go to a particular regulator and tell that, I have learned, is my own selection, nobody has any influence, I want to change, nobody can stop you. Yeah.
Okay. My colleague in DME Media School, Mohit Kishore Vasi, has a question. He has said that what exactly is your opinion, your take on the independence of judiciary in India?
Independence of judiciary, I told you it's a basic structure. Number one. Once independence of judiciary, what is the opposite of independence of judiciary? Let me ask you. Independent judiciary versus committed judiciary. As simple as it is, let's not mince words.
Yeah.
So if you have an independent judiciary, you will always independently think of a constitution and the constitutional framework. Whereas if you have a committed judiciary, you will always tend to think about your commitment to a particular philosophy, commitment to an ideology, commitment to a person, commitment to a group, commitment to a party. All these will be influencing you in taking an independent decision as to what the constitutional scheme is. So this independence can be understood only vis-a-vis or pitching it against the committed judiciary. The moment you are committed to something else, your commitment always influences you in taking decisions.
Yes, sir. Sir, just now you said.
I just wanted to add one sentence about, since you said about the freedom of religion regulation laws. See, nobody can convert you, but you can convert yourself. This is the simple one sentence I wanted. I cannot convert you, but you can yourself convert.
Yes, sir. So just now you said in your lecture that you were so long in the Supreme Court, in the Apex Court, and then earlier you were in the High Court, but then you were not, you thought that the judiciary is not coming up to the expectation. So what are those expectations which you as a judge or other fellow judges or Supreme Court as an institution are not able to achieve?
Constitutional compassion. For me, I'm very clear about it. Constitutional compassion. Constitutional compassion is the sixth sense that should be available to a judge or to a court. Only the deity is blind, not the judge. The deity of justice is blind because it has to impart justice even-handed. It shall not matter to the deity or to the judge as to whether somebody is neatly dressed, somebody is poorly dressed, some speaks good language, some speaks bad language, some is courteous, somebody is non-courteous, somebody is beautiful, somebody is ugly looking, somebody is woman, somebody is man, somebody is transgender, somebody belongs to this party, somebody belongs to that party, somebody belongs to this religion, somebody belongs to that religion. No, those considerations should not be there for the deity of justice. That is why that deity is blinded. Whereas for a judge, the constitutional compassion requires you to respect the citizens or individual's right to exist as a dignified person in the society. How does he become a dignified person? He becomes a dignified position when I get equal justice from court. When I come to court and cry, I don't get. You go to court because you are a professor, you get it. You go to court because you are a doctor, you get it. You go to court, you are a reputed person, you get it. But merely because I have no such language, I have no such dress, I have no such attack, I don't get it. This becomes the problem. So the constitutional compassion is actually the obligation of the court to ensure access to justice and ensure justice to those people who are the least, the last, and the lost. That is why the what you call the butcher, baker, candlestick maker. Today, butcher, baker, candlestick maker are in a very good position. Now, probably, if you ask me today, this constitution, it should belong to, I would say, the candlestick maker, the ASHA worker, and the what you call the migrant workers, the ASHA workers. So many such groups it should belong to.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. But there are few questions by many participants, and they have a single thing which they want to know, that when you as judges are sitting in the court and handling some such cases which are some way controversial outside, whether you face some kind of pressure from the government.
Oh, pressure from the government, yes.
Yeah.
You will get the pressure from the government in case you are looking forward to something to get from the government. You will not have any pressure if you don't expect anything from the government after retirement, number one. You will not have any pressure from the government if you have nothing to hide. If you have too many skeletons to hide in your cupboard, you will always be afraid of government. You will have pressure, you will have to face pressure from the government. But if you have a straight spine, and if you have nothing to hide, and you don't look forward to anything after retirement, you will not have any pressure at all. And I belong to that category. I'm proud to say that.
Yes. Thank you, sir. And then there is another issue that another thing that you explained, which is about dignity. Now, you explained dignity in a very clear manner, but then what about the migrant laborers? The whole country is watching what is happening to migrant laborers. Their conditions are miserable, pathetic, but the apex court has not done anything to protect their dignity. What would you say on this?
Professor Ambarish, it is not for the apex to do it first. Actually, it is the political government which should do it. See, we have a judicial review of the administrative government's action. So when there is a failure of the government, it is at that juncture the court intervenes. So the court is not actually ruling the country. The country is ruled by your elected people. I voted to a person, he becomes a minister or a prime minister, and it is he who governs the country. He rules the country. So the political governance of the country is based on the elected people. So in case they fail to do, you ask something to do to your child to do. If he doesn't do it, then you scold him and you do it yourself, because the thing needs to be done. So the migrant workers or those poor helpless people, they need that their dignity to be protected. So the people who are bound to protect is actually the politically elected government, the bureaucracy. If the government and the bureaucracy failed it, it is that juncture the judiciary comes into picture and compels them by reminding them and by compelling them that it is your duty under the constitution. You can't turn a blind eye on them. You can't ignore them merely because they have no vote, merely because they are not a vote bank, merely because they don't belong to this state or that state. You can't wash your hands like that. You can't be a pilot like that. You have to take care of them. So it is actually that's why we call the guardian of the constitution. What is the role of a guardian? Your child may be an illiterate child. He may be a reckless child. He may be a wanton child. He does not obey you anything. But ultimately, he is your child, no? So guardian cannot ignore a child merely because he does not study. He is a lazy boy. He does not listen to me. But ultimately, when he cries for food, can you as a guardian say, no, you don't listen to me, I will not give you food? No. At that juncture, it is your duty as a guardian to take care of it. So as a guardian of the constitution, it is the primordial duty of the constitutional institution, what is called Supreme Court and the high courts, to protect the dignity of the people and to see that they have a human existence as you and I have it.
Yes, sir. So one of the participants, Sanjana, she has asked a question pertaining to justice to minority, whether the justice to minority has been ensured in India.
We just read Article 29 and 30. See, the minority and majority is actually, that's why I said, if you remember one phrase I used in the initial part of my speech, this country has a space for everybody. Whether you are a minority, whether you are a majority, whether you are this party, this religion, this language, this caste, that tribe, all of you are in the heart of this constitution, of this Mother India. You are not outside the periphery of this Mother India. You are all part of this Mother India. So if you have your singular and unique space, whoever you may be, is protected under the Constitution. So the minority rights are protected under Article 29 and 30. Maybe you can also refer to Article 25 also. All these rights are protected.
Sir, few questions
they are constitutionally protected, but in practice they are not protected. It is for the court to see that they are protected as the Constitution has thought it should be protected, not the. Yes.
Yes, sir. So there are few questions about this, that if the Constitution has so much clarity about religious freedom and all, then why there are so many religious conflicts that we find are happening in the country?
That is precisely the reason I thought of addressing you as a constitutional values, on the constitutional values. It's my duty, it's your duty, it's our duty to see that, we coexist. So we should speak out. My expression, I take pride in saying that the silence of lawmen is more dangerous than the violence of laymen or lawless men, whatever it is. So merely because we people who are learned opted to be silent, many things which are going wrong in this country.
One of the participants, Ankit Sharma, he has asked about the labor laws, and he wants to know whether the labor laws which are there to protect the interests of the labor and the working class, they are not capable of doing justice to the workers.
Yeah, if the law, who made the law? I made the law. How did I make the law? I voted a man or a political party, and that political party made the law. So if that law made by this government does not subserve the justice, one, there are two methods. One, you can change the law. Two, you can get this law interpreted so as to subserve the ends of justice through court. There are two ways of doing it.
Sir, there are many questions about dignity and justice and all. And then people further wants to know as to, can you suggest certain things where the we should say the independence of judiciary can be improved, or judiciary can function in a better way, taking care of the interest of the people if the government fails to rise up to the occasion?
Yeah, independence of judiciary is to be ensured. It's, according to me, it is the most precious thing under the Constitution, because if the independence of the judiciary goes, and if it becomes a bridge or connected to each other, and if there is there's an alliance between each other, then it goes, because there is no independent thinking. And what is that independent? Independent thinking is the constitutional way of thinking. See, a politically elected government may have policies, very, very wonderful policies. Whether those policies are in terms of the Constitution, constitutionally permissible policy, is something to be tested by the judiciary. For that, you require independence. How to improve it? Improve it certainly. One, in the matter of appointment of judges, no doubt about it. And by constantly reminding the judges that you have taken a note that you will discharge your duties without fear or favor, affection or ill will. These four things the people must constantly remind the judges, remind the courts. Who are the people? Those people, according to me, are the lawyers. The fraternity of lawyers, they have nothing to lose. The judges will come and go. but the lawyers are there. To me, the worrisome thing in the Indian situation today is the what you call the silence of our laymen, lawmen and jurists when things go wrong in a particular institution. It is for them to raise their voice and say that we can't permit this because we have seen this institution, we are part of this institution. Lawyers are also part of the administration of justice, but they
Yes,
also ought to be silent. They also take sides, and then things go bad. That is the unfortunate situation that we see in many states and everywhere. Yeah.
Sir, do you feel that Supreme Court judges should not take a post-retirement job because we have seen such kind of incidents wherein after retirement from the Supreme Court, somebody is taking up the job of a governor, somebody is taking the job of a member of the parliament. So, do you feel that there should be some restriction legally or some ethical rule might be there wherein after you retire from the Supreme Court, you are not taking up any job, or rather you are not offered any job. What would you say on this?
See, there are two types of appointment. One, you are appointed to constitutionally, lawfully constituted tribunals, because you have been a judge for quite long. So though you have retired from the institution in terms of the constitution at the age of 62 or 65, 62 in Supreme High Court and 65 in Supreme Court, your service can still be utilized, and there are certain tribunals where your service is required. So long as the constitution, because I always remember our departed great eminent soul, Mr. Arun Jaitley. He was a very staunch critic of this post-retirement ambitious way of looking forward of the situation of the judges. He criticized it. That's why, in the money bill also, when he was the finance minister, all these tribunals were slashed down to 19 only. There were quite a few. They were just reduced to 19. There are only 19 tribunals as of now. He was against this. So that, as I said, there may, so long as the law stands, these tribunals are to be manned only by judges of the Supreme Court sitting or retired, or the High Court sitting or retired. Then you need people like that. Where, see, look at the National Human Rights Commission. The provision says, it can be, the chairman has to be a former Chief Justice of India. Some members are to be like that only, from the former judges, etc. So having created a law where these positions are to be manned by such people, you need to find men also. But to me, I feel that the people should not be seen as a post-retirement avenue for judges. In which case, towards retirement, you will always think of appeasing somebody, pleasing somebody, so that you will get a plum position. So that's a human. This is how it is perceived by the public. That should not be the situation. Instead of the judge going after the position, the government should come after the judge, whether you will please take it. That's why you have to protect the dignity of the position you held. That's one position. There are certain positions, some of which you referred, which are not actually, there is no reservation for a former judge to be a governor. There's no reservation for a former judge to be a member of the parliament. That's where I feel, there's a public perception that the independent judiciary is compromised. Where people look at, people, these are the people whom we have been calling them my lords. We have been seeing them as, as divine, adorning that divine position where, completely independent, completely straight, completely clear, completely independent, etc. Well, the people think, no, now the people start doubting your decisions.
Yes, sir. Sir, one of the participants.
The moment your decision is doubted by the public on account of your integrity, and you have given a chance to doubt your integrity on account of your conduct post-retirement, well, that will affect the independence judiciary.
Sir, one of the participant, Vaishnavi, she has raised the point that there are 3 crores cases pending in different courts. Many other participants have almost raised the same point that justice delayed, justice denied. What would you say on the pendency of large number of cases in all types of courses, all type of courts, right from the subordinate judiciary up to the Supreme Court? What should be done to reduce this number of the pending cases in the courts?
One straight answer is, try the alternate dispute resolution methods. That is arbitration, mediation, conciliation, lok adalat. Number one. Number two, make a pre-litigation mediation compulsory. Number three, change the mindset of the litigants, the lawyers, and the judges with regard to settlement of disputes.
Sir, one of the participant, Hardik, is a media student. He wants to know that what exactly is constitutional spirit?
Constitutional spirit?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is actually, respecting the constitution and its ideals. Abide by the constitution. Respect its ideals. If you take the fundamental duty, please take brother or sister who asked the question, I just forgot the name. Take the constitutional, the fundamental duties under the constitution. The first fundamental duty is to abide by the constitution and read the other 10 duties also. 11, you need only read 9 now because 11th is gone because this education has become a fundamental right now. So the 10 fundamental duties, if you read one by one, that is, and if you are able to live by the spirit of your duties, that is what is called constitutionalist, according to me.
Sir, if we refer to the judicial appointment, since you were there in the constitutional bench, which struck down the act that was passed by parliament with regard to this judicial appointment, setting up judicial appointment commission. And again, this collegium system came back. But then again and again, we read in the newspapers regarding controversies in the appointment of judges, wherein there is some political interference and all. So do you feel that collegium system is better, and the efforts which were being made earlier in the form of judicial appointment commission, that was a bad thing, since that was struck down by the bench and you were there? So whether you still go by the opinion or by your thinking while you struck down that commission, or you have changed your opinion now?
Yeah, I already told in public. In fact, it was in a meeting when I shared a stage with our dear departed friend, Mr. Arun Jaitley. I said, I started regretting in having written that judgment. It did not take so many years for me to start my regret. So I told in public that, probably I would have changed it, because the reason is, if you are able to take and read the last 2-3 paragraphs of my judgment, I have made a very staunch criticism on the system of functioning of collegium. See, we wanted to protect the independence of the judiciary, but the way the collegium functioned and functions, it cannot be said that, your independence, you have upheld the independence of the judiciary. Yeah. That's the only reason. So it needed, I used 2 expressions just to remind you. I said glasnost and perestroika. The collegium system should be seen through, and it should be it should have a reorientation altogether. Perestroika also, yes, both. The moment this glasnost and perestroika are applied to the existing collegium system, probably things will improve. And one suggestion was to have a permanent secretariat, and yes, the judiciary itself should protect, preserve, and promote the independence of judiciary by appointing independent judges, and to see that independent judges are appointed also.
Sir, one of the listeners, Mr. Madhav Chandra, he is a media educator in Bangladesh. So this question has come from Bangladesh, wherein he wants to know the constitutionality of CAA, because this CAA Citizenship Amendment Bill, this has a provision to provide citizenship to to the illegal migrants based on the religion. So how do you look at constitutional?
I'm sorry, it's a matter of subjudice. Supreme Court, I will not comment. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, sir. There are so many questions, but obviously, I mean, there are some repetitions and it seems not possible to take all the questions. So we move towards the conclusion of this session. And I'm really grateful to Justice Kurian Joseph to talk openly on so many issues, and particularly answering such kind of issues which are always in the mind of the common people with regard to the functioning of the judiciary, and particularly with regard to the role of the Supreme Court. So before winding up, I would like to know, Justice Joseph, from you, can you suggest certain measures? I mean, one or two, if I request you to tell one or two reforms which are urgently required to completely revamp the judiciary in this country.
Revamping the judiciary, it's a, what you call it, it's not an easy task. Yeah. But the judiciary itself should be aware of its constitutional role. This is my painful observation. See, nobody can remind them. But time has come that probably the lawmen should remind them that you have a very important role under the Constitution. Sometimes they may forget. Sometimes they may not be aware also. So in such times, the media, the fourth estate, a lot of media people also participating.
Yes.
The fourth, according to me, it's not the judiciary, what you call legislature, executive, judiciary. I have two more wings. Those two more wings, according to me, in the Indian democracy, are very important. One, the media. Two, the civil society movements. So the media and civil society movements should be there'll be a strong independent media and civil society movement, which also, just as I said about judiciary, which should be in a position to see India through the specs of this constitution. So the constitutionalism is to be actually safeguarded and protected, not only by the judiciary, according to me. Two wings, one, the media and the civil society movements. You have a great role to see that India is a constitutionally governed country, and there is a rule of law, and that all the constitutional institutions do strive their best to protect their independence as envisaged in the Constitution. That I ask this question because has there been any constitutional institution whose who has not been whose credibility has not been doubted in the recent past? So when things go wrong, we must speak out. You must speak out. The media and the civil society movements.
Sir, so as a former judge, I mean, how do you look at the way the media has been functioning in our country? So do you feel that media has not been able to rise up to the occasion and to do the kind of service to the society which was actually expected in the Constitution? Would you like
100%, 100%, Ambarish, I tell you, the media failed the country. The media is not actually doing their conscientious work. They are actually airing the views, not airing the news. The moment the media becomes an independent, bold, and a true, a true Indian media, things would have changed.
Thank you, sir. So this is really a very vital remark, and the media people and the budding journalists have to think about this. So with this,
ask the media of the country to conduct an examination of conscience as to whether they are truly independent or whether they are actually part of their own agendas, yes, or the what you call the imposed agendas.
Yes, sir. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Justice Korean Joseph, to spare so much time and enlightening us all. And I think every participant would have enjoyed the session. I also thank you all the participants who joined in this session, asked so many questions, became the participatory in the deliberation, and made this whole exercise a success. Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
want to thank you
Thank you,
all who gave a what you call who participated so actively in this. I can see some of the chats. I did not respond to them all, but I would like to thank you. And let us all strive ourselves. At least 200 or 300 participants who are participating in this. No, let's be true Indians, and let's be proud Indians, and let's be proud of our country, and let's take our country forward, and let's take a pledge today to see Indians beyond their politics, beyond their caste, beyond their creed, beyond their tribe, beyond their language, beyond their gender, beyond their region, beyond their philosophies. Indian is. That's the beauty of the Indian Constitution. Irrespective of all these, India is India only because of this Constitution. And let's abide by the Constitution so that this country will strive towards higher levels of endeavor and achievement. That is one fundamental duty.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you.
Jai Hind. Yeah.
Yeah.